Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. Today we have a very special teacher's edition, tips for new teachers and things I wish I would have known when I began as a teacher a few years ago. Although this is my first year working full-time as a teacher, I have been teaching for the last 4 to 5 years. So it's been a long learning curve, but I hope to give you guys some good nuggets of knowledge. I'm curious to hear what my fellow co-host Jared's insights are to teachers that he's had and some things that maybe are tips from him, giving us a nice outsider perspective, which will be great. So we're looking forward to bringing this episode to you today. And it's not only for teachers, but I think this will also there will definitely be some nuggets of knowledge just for life in general as well. So it should be an enjoyable episode, and we're looking forward to it. So Jared, what's been going on, buddy?
Hello. Back in my Harry Potter closet. Harry Potter studio, excuse me.
That's trademarked, right? Harry Potter studio?
It is, yeah. No, I was going to say no one else can use it. That's not true. Anyone can use it. Just for a small fee of $10,000, you can use Harry Potter Studios. It's almost more like you know how there's a bunch of Trump hotels, but all he does is really just sell his name.
Right.
Harry Potter Studios. Granted, this is not a great business plan because I owe J.K. Rowling a lot of money. So
That's
please,
true.
follow us on Twitter, Untranslatable1. Follow us on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. Email us, untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. And you can also
spread a little love
and give us 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. That was smooth.
Whew.
So, while people are listening to this, I am in my bed. Well, no, I'm not in bed. I'm at work. Not paying attention to anyone or anything that has to do with work. Just shaking, like, let me get out of here, staring at my watch as it slowly ticks. And I've been thinking, should I be doing some sort of preparation or anything? I've done no sort of research, preparation, nothing. And it seems foolish of me to be so unprepared.
You mean for the trip?
Yeah.
Or do you mean for you being gone?
For the trip. What do you mean for me being gone? Oh, you mean for work related?
Right, work related.
No,
and then
they don't need
who's getting your mail, all that fun stuff.
Oh,
okay, doesn't matter.
All I get is garbage mail.
there you go.
It's more just for the trip. I feel like I should do some sort of preparation.
Well, what kind of preparation would you want to do?
Maybe have some plans. Maybe preparation would be a good, well, I don't know. I feel like anything you would know. Good places to eat food would be interesting.
Right.
What
I can tell you right now,
I just don't know anything about these cities other than what I've heard and what you've told me, and I wonder if I should go into it a little bit more prepared and not just rely on you to be the tour guide.
Right, and you're welcome to do that. I would not be offended.
Well, that's very true. I know I am. I just lazy.
Right. You and me both, buddy. I guess the one place where it wouldn't hurt for you to do a little bit of research would be Berlin. Okay. Otherwise, Prague will be fine. There's so many great places in Prague. So what I did this weekend, I was in Prague scouting the area for Jared, and
it's just for me.
Just for you. Trying to find some good places. Was also going to meet up with a couple of my friends, but they were busy. So I had the whole evening free by myself, so I was walking around. And when I go to Prague, generally I avoid the tourist areas like the plague, right? Because I've seen most of them. I've been to Old Town, I've been to the Charles Bridge, which are still places we're going to go because they're worth seeing for sure.
Right.
But there's a street in Prague called Dlouhá. Dlouhá, I can't say it right now for some reason. It's Czech for long. It's like the long street. And basically it's a street with all these more touristy bars and clubs and things like this. And I've always avoided it because there's a lot of really cool, especially Czech pubs I like to go to. But I wanted to check them out to see if they are what they're cracked up to be. Are they worth visiting? because I think sometimes it's good to do some of the touristy stuff and try to do some of the more local stuff.
Have you never seen these places before?
I've never been into them before. I've walked by them. So there's a bar there's a bar, for example, called
all these bars on the streets. You mean? I think you meant
Exactly.
some of the actual landmark
the
things.
sites. I've seen pretty much all the sites and landmarks.
Right. I figured.
But the cool thing is, one of the reasons why I'm excited for you to come visit is a lot of the landmarks, because I've seen them before, I don't really go back to see them.
Right.
So sometimes it's nice to revisit things. You get a different perspective on it, you know. But anyway, so I went to...
Yeah, what kind of places did you stumble upon?
So I went to Daloha, and there they had... it's called the James Dean Bar. And it's an American diner upstairs. Downstairs, it's like a nightclub or like a big dance floor. And they play like oldies. So it was really cool. It was really, really cool. It was mostly British tourists. And I had to really fight.
This sounds awful, by the way.
I had to really fight not like mimicking their accents. Like I really wanted to go up to them and be like, "Where are you from? Right? What are you doing here?"
Like you taking the piss? That's what they'd say to you.
right. Yeah. But anyway, so I checked that place out. And then this is the crazy story though. Well, I have a couple crazy stories.
Am I wrong in thinking that sounds terrible, by the way?
I mean, I think it's fun for a little. Like the music was really good there.
Okay.
The music was, and I think it's worth going for like a drink and just to check it out. But yeah,
I don't mind that.
But I think a lot of people frequent that place. There were a couple Czechs there, not many, but there were a couple. But anyways, what's interesting is, so I went to James Dean, and then before that though. You know, I was walking around by myself. I was stone cold sober, so I thought maybe it'd be good to have a beer or two before I just go to these random nightclubs and bars.
That's a note for all children.
Right.
Before you do anything, make sure you get a little lubricated.
That's right. And so I went to this place also on Daloha. I need to stop saying that because I can't say it right. But I went there and it's called Beer Story. I think it's supposed to be like history, but like beer instead of hiss, right? So anyways, so I go in there and I sit down to order a beer and I realize it's like empty and the chairs are up. And I'm like, oh crap, I must have walked in right before they closed. And so I walk in and what's really funny is the waitress says, you know, just so you know, we're closing. You know, this will be your first and your last beer. So I was like, all right, you know, that's fine. They're closing.
Did you say like
all
that?
right.
That seems aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably a language thing because she was Czech.
Yeah, probably.
And, you know, Czech is, I think it seems like it's a bit more of a direct
This will be your
language than
first,
English.
and it'll be your last.
Exactly. Well, I can tell you, Jared, it was not my first. Well, it was my first, but it was not. It was not my last. It was not my last. So I sat down, had a beer. They had a really good Hefeweizen, and this was from a microbrewery in, I think it's called Bromy. It's either Bromy or Brownie, one or the other, in the Czech Republic. I couldn't even tell you where it is.
This is so much fun hearing you say all of these.
Right. And so I had one beer. And then the waitress and the other two bartenders had their own beers. They poured themselves, you know, I guess like a good night beer or something. And she looks at me. They were all speaking Czech, and she looks at me and she goes, "Jeszcze jedno," in Czech, which means like another round or another one. And I answer. I said, "Ano." And you should have seen the look on their faces. They were shocked. And then they were talking to me, and so I made small talk with the two bartenders there. Their names are Jan and Tomasz, really nice guys.
No.
And so I told them you were coming, and I found out what day they're working, and we're going to go in when they work there.
All right.
So we're going to go say what up to my new homies at Beer Story. And the other funny thing is...
Did they speak English?
Oh, very good English.
Okay.
I tried to flex a little bit of my Czech on them. My favorite thing to tell people in Czech is I've been learning Czech for 5 months. I don't even say it right. It's very broken Czech, but it's basically... I studied Czech 5 months, and I don't know if it's grammatically correct. To all of our Czech listeners, what I tell people is učím se česky 5 měsíce, which means I'm studying Czech 5 months. I don't know if they use full. I don't know what the grammar is because most of my Czech lessons, most of my Czech lessons are just trying to talk because I don't really care about the grammar. I don't need it for the most part, right?
Many fregista.
And I love seeing the utter shock on people's faces when I tell them 5 months because they can't believe it.
That you can say, oh, that's only 5 months of Czech?
No, I think they think that Czech is because most foreigners sadly don't try to learn it because there's a stigma. It is a difficult language, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's worth learning, even just the basics. I think it's worth learning, which is why I've been teaching you all this random Czech during our Czech words of the pod.
Sometimes I just think about random Czech words in my head.
Perfect. You're getting ready for this trip in all the best ways. But yeah, so it was cool though to speak Czech with them a little bit and get to know them. And then after that, I went to this bar/nightclub called Chapeau Rouge. And they had it was interesting. They had an upstairs and a middle floor.
Chapeau?
Chapeau.
What's chapeau?
With a P. I have no idea. You're the guy I would go to with the French question. So now that you don't know.
I've never heard of chapeau. I've heard of chateau.
Right. I have no idea. But so Chapeau Rouge, and they have an upstairs bar, a middle floor.
Hat.
Oh, red hat. Oh, that makes sense. Because when you walk in, you see a logo with a guy with like a top hat, and it's a red light. So that makes sense.
There you go.
There you go. So anyway, so they have a bar on the top floor. Middle floor is like a dance floor. Bottom floor is like a basement bar with also another dance floor. And so that place was pretty cool. There were some tourists, but there were mostly Czechs there, which is interesting because it's right in the heart of that whole street right there. It's in Old Town. And Old Town is where you're going to see the most tourists. My favorite spots, which I'm going to take you to, are Prague 2 and Prague 3. Because Prague 2 and Prague 3, for the most part, is mostly Czechs. However, in Prague 2, there are some dorms, I believe, for one of the, I think it's like New York University Prague. So you will find some Americans there, but not a lot of them.
NYU has a campus in Prague? Is that what you mean?
It's NYU something Prague. Yeah, it's like
cool.
Yep. So
who knew? Well, I guess a lot of people knew.
Probably, but yeah.
Another thing about are those all the places you went to?
Now I'm trying to think. I mean, the other stuff I was just kind of walking around.
How is it just wandering and just deciding a place to go and to just sniffing it out? Like, do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy this sort of...
Loved every second of it.
That's the thing. You keep saying you're doing this for me and Don and stuff, but I kept thinking, I was like, what? Like, this sounds like something that you'd love to do. Like, you'd...
See, that's
like
the weird thing.
You made it seem like it was some sort of sacrifice.
Oh, it was not a sacrifice at all whatsoever. No. But I guess the thing that I like about it is I like the feeling of you have complete freedom. Not that I'm super excited for you and Don to come visit. We're going to have a great time. But there's something different too when almost every time I go to Prague, I'm visiting friends, which is great. But when you're with friends, sometimes, you got to make compromises. You might not be able to do all the things you want to do. And that night I could go and see and do whatever the hell I wanted. And
no offense to you, but this is a good and but the good and bad thing about you is you're very aware of like what other people want to do and always trying to worry about what other people want to do. So I can imagine when you're with other people, a lot of what you would choose to do is probably not going to be the first thing that is going to be happening because you're always very aware of what you guys want to do.
Right.
And I can imagine, and I can imagine you being alone. Yeah, just having that ultimate freedom and just being able to go wherever you want. And
it was funny. I almost went into the secret bar, the one we talked about on the pod a few times. Mm-hmm. I walked by the door and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go there tonight. I want to go to some new places. I want to walk around. I spent like a good 45 minutes just wandering around. It was great.
I love that, especially like on what is it, Saturday night?
Saturday night, yeah. It was, and the weather wasn't too bad. Exactly. And like I said, there were so many British people. I really wanted to go up to them and be like, "How you do?" Like, I can't do a British accent, but
yeah, exactly. They'd immediately be like, "What are you doing right now?"
Yo, Wanka, what are you trying to do right now?
I feel like my British accent sounds so much better when I can't hear myself through my headphones.
That's probably true. Probably true.
I swear to God, it sounds so much better when I'm not like actively thinking about it here.
Right.
But whenever I try to do it here, it's like you can't do this. It's terrible.
What's funny is I will tell if I start to talk with a British accent, somehow it always turns Australian. I don't know how. By the end of the sentence, it sounds way more Australian.
Sometimes I get some Jamaican in there.
What?
Sometimes I get some Jamaican in there.
Oh, there you go. A good trick for Jamaican is if you say,
really.
If you say
Beer
beer can. Yeah, beer can. Isn't
we
it
all
with a
know
British
this.
accent?
I've seen that meme. I've seen that
Beer
meme
can?
news story.
Right. And it
Yeah.
turns out being Jamaican for
can.
bacon.
Yeah. One more thing about this trip, though, is there? Do you ever have this before? I'm sure you do. Now that I think about it. I kind of have that constant feeling that I'm forgetting something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or it's like I've checked to make sure my passport's there like 5 times. It's like, all right, no one's broken in my house in the middle of the night or while I'm at work and stolen it.
Right,
Okay,
right.
good to know. Okay, it's still valid. It hasn't somehow expired between now and the last time I look at it. The date hasn't changed.
Right.
I'm actually not doing that. That's the kind of exaggeration. But I am like constantly thinking, like, am I forgetting something? I don't know. I almost feel like I'm too calm. Do you ever have a feeling of too calm?
Too calm. Yeah. Well, now it's just normal.
Because I'm not even really like, I'm just excited. I'm not even really thinking about like all that stuff. I was like, I mean, I have clothes. I have a toothbrush and stuff. Like, what else do I need?
Right. Exactly. And I mean, even if you forgot something, we'll be in such big cities that you could easily find it. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that adds to the calmness of it.
Yeah.
And for me as well, because I've been traveling to Prague and other places around here, I pretty much know exactly what I need to pack, how much, and it's become second nature, more or less. Mm-hmm. You know, I take my Osprey backpack. Shout out to Osprey, and
they really need to start paying us or something.
Right? Yeah, no kidding.
Even I told you, Brad recommended. He's like, hey, why don't you? I was told when I was looking for the backpack I got. He's like, hey, have you considered the Osprey backpack? I was like, you heard about that from Chad? He's like, oh yeah, that's right. I was like, yeah, no, he told me that. Yeah, no, right. I thought about it.
My dad bought one when they came to visit, and it was great. Worked out great for him. So.
Well, that's the thing is I don't travel internationally often, but I travel fairly often, like not often, but regularly. And right. I have my packing down to a science pretty much. And I think what I kind of have in my head is that like just because I'm going international doesn't mean that that's much different. Like why does that have to change?
Right. It really doesn't. I mean the only thing I worry about
I don't have any plugs. That's the thing. I just did think about that today.
Oh, you might want to get you probably just need the adapters. You don't need the actual converters, do you?
I don't know.
Because
I mean, you tell me. You're the one that lives there.
Well, like I didn't bring any. So the difference between an adapter, you know, the difference between an adapter and a converter, right?
For the listeners, please.
So very smooth. So an adapter is basically just it. You plug in your usual plug. And it has a different shape, right? So in Europe, they have the 2-prong circles.
I know the difference by look.
Yeah.
But
so that's
I don't
an
really
adapter.
know where's the limit in usage is what I don't know.
So an adapter you use with, you know, if you have a laptop or a cell phone charger.
And that's the one that sort of has like the transformer on it.
So no. That's a converter.
Oh, excuse me. The adapter is just the
plug. The adapter is just for the plug. The converter
converts
the electronic current. Mm-hmm. So like if you brought... I don't
my
think
hair dryer.
I was literally just going to say your hair dryer. So for some reason,
blown up a simple like an adapter with something like a hair dryer. I don't know if it was exactly a hair dryer. At my like when we lived in Germany, that was a shocking experience.
Okay,
sure. Geez. I did not plan that,
but okay. So yeah, but if you like, you know, my laptop, the box, it will say the current on there. And if it says the current, I think it's like, what is it, 140 to 220 volts or something like that?
I have this charger.
So, yeah. So if
the standard sort of Mac charger.
If you look at it, it should say somewhere the voltage.
I don't have a lot of light on right now. 240.
There you go. So I think 240 is what they use here, and we use... something else, but yeah, that should be no problem. I mean, I was going to
say, don't you have the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Literally the same charger plugged in right now.
That's what I thought. That's really the only thing. That and my phone, which is probably obviously also an adapter.
Right. But that all you need is an adapter. You don't need a converter for the little the brick as they call it.
Right. Although my soundboard specifically, you know, the one that does the slipping on gator, you betcha, and that takes a lot of power. That I actually have to. by freight ship a generator across the across the pond. It's very expensive.
Right. All these sacrifices for you, our dear listeners.
My neighbors are constantly complaining about surges in their electricity every time.
Worth it. Worth it. No regrets. No regrets at all. But yeah. Yeah, and speaking of, though, the weekend in Prague,
yes.
Obviously, a lot of it was, I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of fun just kind of exploring myself. But
Did you spend the night?
Yeah, I spent the night.
Okay.
Came home at about 3 a.m. or so. Not too bad.
Oh, you didn't spend the night. You didn't like sleep there. Or that's
No,
what
I
meant
slept
by
there.
Okay.
I came back to the Airbnb at 3.
Gotcha.
But
wow,
yeah,
that's a powerful night.
Yeah. Went out, left at about 10 and was out till 3. It was fun. But the other thing, though, is I wanted to make a list and also try to kind of figure out the best way that we can, go different places, right? Mm-hmm. The nice thing about Prague, it's a decent-sized city, but it's not as huge, I don't think, as Berlin or maybe Vienna.
I think it's definitely not. I don't know about Vienna, but I know it's definitely not as big as Berlin.
No, definitely not. And so the nice thing is with Prague, also, I meant to tell you and Don, well, maybe not. I don't know, because if you guys don't have internet, it'll only work when you have Wi-Fi. But there's this really cool app called PID Litachka, and I use this to actually buy my tickets in Prague. What I could do, though,
download it right now.
There you go. I'll send you here I can just show you the icon. There's no way to zoom in, is there? Let's see here.
PID. Oh, I see it. It's right here.
Yep.
I already found it.
It's green?
It's green?
Yep. Green.
Oh, jinx.
This is going to be a boring podcast if I can't talk. But yeah, so anyways, the other thing too, though, if you're in Don, if you guys, if your phones won't work over there, I mean, obviously a lot of places have Wi-Fi in Prague.
Right.
But what I could also do is buy 3 tickets on here. Is another way we could do it. But
what Don and I do often, maybe if you're okay with this might work for a lot of things similar to that. Mm-hmm. Is what Don and I and Brad have often done on trips is we don't really keep track of who's paying for who during the trip.
Right.
But what we'll do, and so someone goes to dinner and pays for this, someone pays for drinks here. So we're not splitting everything up all the time. But what we'll do is we still split it up and we go through our credit card statement or whatever.
Right.
And if it's cash, that's on you. You lost the cash.
Okay.
But I guess you could do the cash too if you really want to save your receipt. But anyway, then we just put it in an Excel sheet, how much you spent, and then you split it up like that. And
nice.
And then at the end, you can just do it where it shows how much each person paid and then who owes who. And it's super simple if you just put it in Excel after.
I will say, though, it will probably make your lives easier if you guys do use cash.
Oh, for sure.
As you know, you've been to Europe, a lot of places. In Prague, you'll probably be okay, but I've also heard some Americans had difficulties with their American cards. Like, I have no problem.
I did. Mm-hmm. Well, some Americans had problems with their American cards. You mentioned that. I will not have that problem. I actually just yesterday put in on my bank. If I have my bank, I'm not going to say who my bank is. Not that it matters, but you can set up any bank. You can do this. You can set up travel alerts. And so on my bank, I put in the days I'm going to be there and what countries I'm going to go to, and then my cards will work while I'm there. So but I'm only going to use it mostly for getting cash because I still don't want to use my credit card and stuff. Right. To be fair.
I knew exactly what you meant, but I think there's something weird with, I don't know how it works, but some places they just don't accept, even if it's MasterCard or Visa.
Oh, I gotcha.
I've seen that happen in a restaurant.
What about my Discover?
Maybe. I have no idea. But
no,
either
that's
way.
a joke that that only like 6 people would get. It's from a Family Guy episode.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that one went right over my head.
And Lois was like laughing. I'm like, Discover! Anyway, so but I remember that from studying abroad too, is that they always recommended just use as much cash as possible.
Right, exactly. Well, Jared, I think it's time to
spread a little love. I agree. And I don't know about you, but I was downright inspired after last podcast, and I got 2 musical related
Great
stories. The first one is about this guy named Justin Whaling. For years, Justin Whaling has been visiting. All right, I'm going to stop doing that. Has been visiting Edmonton Hospital 4 times a week to play the piano for parents and visitors. I hate how this is written. It's so almost kind of condescending. How it's written is, well, what you'd never know from his spirited performance is that he can't see. Why would that be so shocking?
Right.
Have you? Some of the greatest pianists in the world are
Ray
blind.
Charles.
Have you heard of Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's so ridiculous. But anyway, it's still a great story. I just hate how they wrote that. He's blind, and he's been playing piano since he was 3. And I don't know how old he is now, but he's an adult, at least in his, by pictures, I'd say, at least in his 20s, it seems like, maybe. I don't think the article says how old he is. But in his repertoire, he has over 200 songs. And he goes to these hospitals and plays for elderly people. And he was 4 times a week he does this. And he was encouraged to do it by his grandmother and his piano teacher. And I think that's awesome. Not to make this about me, because, we're here to spread a little love. And this is a great story. But my piano teacher, this is kind of about my piano teacher, actually. She does a similar thing, like, with her students and puts on these recitals that I've told you I've done, 1 or 2 of them. And I hate performing, really, because I don't think I'm good yet. But I know that's a terrible mentality to have. But I mostly the reason I do these things is because it's like, first of all, I'm playing for people that are just happy to have people that want to like perform for them, and it just feels nice to like see people like enjoy it. And so it's cool that he does that, and I can understand how he'd probably get as much out of it as they do, and it's good to play for an audience.
Absolutely,
Keep
very
you sharp.
fulfilling. It's very fulfilling. And
it's totally different than just playing in your house, I think.
Right. And the other thing is too, I think everybody benefits from it, like you mentioned. It makes other people happy to hear the music. You feel appreciated. And like our goal of the shoutouts is you can
spread a little love.
That's
very
right.
True. It's very true. I agree. And I think that's cool. As an amateur, novice piano player, that's something that something as simple as, I don't want to call it simple, but even something like that, I like. That would be so cool to be able to do. Mm-hmm. And put a fun way and a nice, useful way to put a talent to use.
Right. A couple more years, you might be doing the same. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Go ahead. Spread a little love.
All right. So my first one, this is a great story. Both these stories, I think, will hit you right in the feels. So this one, the headline is, this elementary school principal reads books on Facebook to ensure her students have a bedtime story. So a big shout out to Belinda George, who's a first-year principal at Homer Drive Elementary in Beaumont, Texas. And she goes on Facebook Live every Tuesday night to read a story to her students. So right here, to foster a love of reading, elementary educators tell their students to read a book at night or have someone read to them. One principal in Texas has made it personal. She snuggles into a pair of pajamas and reads to her students herself.
Keep the pantsuit on, and I'm okay with this.
Right? I don't know if they are read to or not at home, but she, wants these kids to have the opportunity, if their parents aren't at home or can't, don't have the time to read them a bedtime story, I guess, to hear a story. And what she said is, kids will come up to me on Wednesday. She does this every Tuesday. Also, they call it Tucked In Tuesdays, which I think is a catchy title. And kids will come up to me on Wednesday and say, Dr. George, I saw you in your PJs reading, and they'll tell me their favorite part of the book.
That's awesome.
I think this is really great. And this is...
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a lot of...
The PJs thing is still kind of weird to me, but it's awesome.
I mean, I get it. It's supposed to... She's getting the whole atmosphere,
and I'm
right?
sure it's like, some of those like full kind of like... obviously she's not like a... it's not even... I don't mean to make it weird because I know it's not. But it's just funny to me hearing the PJ thing. But I think that's important, and I think for a lot of people don't even realize, like the simple steps that can be taken to get people into reading that sometimes aren't taken at home.
Right.
And it's as simple as being exposed to stories that are interesting to them, them, then I assume later wanting to, learn about those stories on their own.
Exactly. So I think that's really great.
I think that is cool. I think that's cool. And she probably likes doing it. So shout out to what's her name?
Belinda George.
Belinda.
Dr. Belinda George.
Oh, doctor. Excuse me, Dr. Belinda George. My next story is about a classical violinist. Sorry, at first I thought she was also a doctor, and I was like, speaking of doctors, just dropping doctors, but she's not. A self-described research geek. I'm sorry, I think I need to go to the eye doctor. I haven't been to the eye doctor in like 2 years, and I think it's probably overdue. A self-described research geek, classical violinist Rachel Barton Pine has a passion for discovering a new repertoire and turning kids onto classical music.
Oh, cool.
That drive and commitment fuels her Black Composers Project, now out with its first volume of violin music by Black composers for music students. The Rachel Barton Pine Foundation was started in 2001 to increase awareness of classical music and to support young musicians from challenging financial backgrounds. Its projects include grants. Its projects include grant making and instrument loan program, a global effort to support musicians in developing countries, and a project finding and collecting music by Black composers from all over the world. The Black Composers Project now with over 900 works by more than 350 composers is out with the most curricular volume of violin music by Black composers, with music from Africa, Europe, Latin America, North America, and the Caribbean.
That's awesome.
I think it's I found the story around when I was reminiscing about Zupstrom, and he had mentioned that a lot of people aren't even aware that this is an option, and aren't even aware and aren't even exposed to this kind of music in any sort of way that is meaningful, and just by being aware of it, you could cultivate way more. You could cultivate, or some artists can come out that didn't even know they were, because they now realize that was something that they could do.
Right.
And I think that's cool that someone is.
It's absolutely great.
Leading that up.
That's amazing. That is really, really awesome. And also, obviously, a very big shout out to Michael Jupstrom for being on our previous episode. He was a great guest, and we hope to have him on again in the future. So I have one last shout out.
You betcha.
I had to do a shout out related to a teacher, because this is our episode about tips for teachers and things I wish I would have known when I started as a teacher. And this story is the epitome, I think, of what it means to be a good professor, teacher, educator, whatever words you want to throw on it. So right here, I have a shout out that goes out to Professor Nathan Alexander. Nathan Alexander had a student come into class, to his math class, and they couldn't find a babysitter. And so what Nathan Alexander did was he actually held the baby, had the little harness thing, while he was teaching. So you can see pictures of him next to the whiteboard with, a marker in his hand and the baby on his chest. And he said, "Let me hold the baby so you can take better notes."
Years from now, I'm still going to be asking you, where the hell do you find these stories?
It's a secret. A magician never reveals his secrets, Jared.
I like to think that I would at least get to know.
Maybe I'll tell you. Maybe episode 100, I'll reveal the secrets. We'll see.
Don't do it on the pod, though.
We'll do. Of course not. Of course not.
Maybe what I'll do is we'll do it, pre-pod talk, and I'll bleep it out.
That would be great.
And I'll be like, "Oh my gosh!"
Can you bleep it out using the SpongeBob dolphin noise?
Of course I can. Of course I can.
That would be great.
Chad.
All right. So just the last thing about this story. So this happened at Morehouse College, And so Nick Vaughn is, I guess, the one who documented it in his math class when his classmate Wayne Hare showed up wearing his baby daughter in a carrier. The father explained to their professor, Nathan Alexander, he couldn't find a babysitter. And then that's when Professor Alexander said, no problem. In fact, I will even hold her so you can take better notes in class.
Shout out.
So that's like the most, and dude, these pictures here, I'll send you a link to this because these pictures, dude, just speak for themselves. Like, I think there's nothing more badass than somebody not only teaching a class, but holding a baby on their chest with a harness.
Well, he's not teaching. They're taking a test, right?
No, he's teaching.
He's
teaching.
He's teaching and holding one of his students' kids?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
That is awesome.
All right, so hopefully I'll be able to send it to you sometime in the near future because my internet is
what
being
city
slow.
is this in?
It was Morehouse College.
Yeah, send it to me later. Can you send it to me later? Because you're breaking up.
Yep, sending it later. All right.
Oh, Morehouse. Oh, this was college. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, also, I kind of, in a weird way, I kind of respect, well, no, not in a weird way. I just respect the dude for also coming to class with his kid.
Right.
He's like,
for sure.
listen, I'm going to, I'm
He's
paying
getting
for
that
this
education.
shit. Yeah.
Right.
He's like, yeah. I think
Exactly.
it's awesome both ways. And
definitely.
and I'm going to remind you of some of this picture after.
I will.
But I don't want you
because
to
I'll probably forget.
slow down this
Jared,
video.
I think you know what time it is. It is time for the beer of the pod. And this beer is kind of interesting. So I found this at Tesco, which is not too far from my apartment. No. It's actually like a British like supermarket. Kind of like Lidl or Billa or something like that.
I thought it was British. That's right. But
what's interesting about this beer, I'll read it in just a second. But it's called
Tesco.
It's called Rostinger.
Rostinger.
Based off of the name, I want to say it's German. I mean, doesn't that look?
It does, yeah.
Like it would be German?
Looks like a standard. You know what it kind of reminds me of? What was that green beer that was kind of basic in Austria? You know what I mean?
Oh, Gösser.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminds me of.
So it says genuine taste, refreshing taste. It's got the little wheat on the side. Although, I haven't even tasted this yet, but based on the looks of it, this looks like a Czech
Czech-style Pilsner.
Yes, sir. A Ležák, as they say. But here's the weird thing. So they're very clear on the alcohol percentage, 4.0. So I believe in the Czech Republic that would make this a 10, I think. 10 degrees is the way the Czechs would say it. And I'm trying to find out where this is from. Didn't do my research, kids, so my apologies.
I actually did.
Did you?
Yeah, but then I closed it because I didn't think we'd talk about your beer.
Yeah, I have no idea where it's actually from. So it's interesting.
I think it's from Poland. Nope.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right because they have Polish and they have Hungarian on there.
All right, well, there you go.
So Rostinger apparently is a Polish beer. Looks like a Czech Ležák, Czech ale or lager. I think lager. But let's give this bad boy a taste. I have half a nostril plugged up, so the smell test isn't going to be very accurate this week.
I'm glad you insisted upon this beer of the pod review. I can't smell it.
Okay, so
don't know where it's from.
Based on taste, right? This is the mystery beer of the pod apparently today. So in terms of the taste, it's lighter than a Czech lager or a Czech-style Pilsner. Honestly, this tastes, you can definitely taste the hops a little bit.
Oh,
There's
really?
a slight hops aftertaste, yeah. Although it's a little bit lighter. Look, I'm gonna be brutally honest about this one.
I don't think anyone's gonna be offended by this review.
Right. I think this beer would be something that I would buy if it was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I'm out drinking with my friends and need a couple more beers.
That's like a Späti stop beer.
Exactly. It doesn't taste bad, but it's also not, definitely of all the choices there are, one moment here.
I mean, let's put it this way. If you're in Michigan and you're at a grocery store and you're like, let me get a nice beer to drink tonight, you're not going to be like, ooh, a fancy Polish Rostinger.
Rostinger, yeah. So, but it's not bad. Definitely not my favorite of the different like kind of lager beers I've tried while I've been here, but it's all right. I mean, it was really cheap. I think I literally paid, I don't even think I paid 10 crowns for that beer. So that's
Yeah, so that's less, like $1.
That's not even $1.
Right, because it's 22.
$20,
is
22 or 23 or 24, somewhere around there.
Right.
It's like 50 cents. So I think I paid about 50 cents or so for this beer.
for that, I'd say it's pretty delicious.
Right. Right. Oh, definitely. What the reason why I got it though is I was really curious why it had English, genuine taste, refreshing taste. And
But
to
you're
me,
at a Tesco.
yeah, but most of their stuff is Czech.
Right, that's true.
And
That
you know,
makes sense.
I've really got to be careful where I get my beers now because we've done so many of them. I'm starting to run out of options.
Yeah.
So you got to be creative. But
Well,
it's not bad. Mm-hmm.
Didn't you mention that there was a place in Prague that you went to that had like that Beerstery?
Yep.
The place that had the microbrews or whatever?
That is exactly the place.
What well,
We're going there. It's
what
great.
kind of microbrews are we talking? Like what did you have?
IPAs. I told you I had a Weizen. I had a wheat beer.
Oh, right.
It was really
right,
good.
right.
But
Okay,
they
okay,
have
okay.
IPAs.
Are they like American? Or are they?
I didn't try the IPAs.
Oh, you didn't know where they were from?
They were all Czech.
Interesting.
Well, I'm pretty sure most of them were Czech.
You know what? I'll report back on that and let everyone know.
That's right. We'll figure it out when we're in Prague.
Exactly.
Which won't be too far in the near future. But yeah,
sir.
If you're out and you need a cheap beer, go ahead and get the genuine taste, refreshing taste, Rostinger from Poland. Not too bad.
Vyborny. That was the greatest.
It's their commercial. Their new
Not too
commercial.
bad.
Not too bad. Exactly.
I think people will respect the honesty.
Right? I hope so. But see, here's the thing.
We're
Here's
not here
the thing,
to
man.
oversell it.
I've realized I've become too spoiled because beer here is really good and it's really cheap.
Well, I don't think. I mean, I wasn't expecting that to be that special.
Right.
Yeah, like and that's the kind of and as I said, that's not the kind of beer that would like insult anyone if you like.
Right.
Not that it matters if it did, but like that's like it is what it is. But you know what
Exactly.
it also is?
Ooh, it is that time.
Untranslatable time.
So I only have one this time, Jared.
Okay.
So do with that what you will.
Okay. I'll go first. My first one is Thai, and it's Kam ki dikwa kam tot. And that literally means better to grab feces than flatulence.
Better to grab. I mean, I think it would, I guess, better to do something that you're sure of than like take better to like go all in than to not do it at all. Yeah? No?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Not really.
You want to give me a world-class example?
Well, so let's put it this. So, I'm a fan of buying lottery tickets. I buy them all the time, and I swear to God, I'm gonna win. I've been struck by lightning 4 times, so based off of my math, it's right about time for me to win the lottery.
Okay.
And I finally did actually a couple of years ago, but gosh darn it, I won $16 million instead of that big boy $45 billion. And I was complaining to you, and I kept telling you, Chad, I know. It's like, this is so 16 million's nothing. This is gonna run. I've been working so hard for this.
Okay.
And you're like, come on, Jared. It's better to grab feces than flatulence.
So it's better to get a little something than nothing.
There you go. That's exactly
All right.
what it is. Better
All right.
Better to get something than nothing at all.
That's true. Even if it's feces.
I guess. I don't really understand the logic, but
Right. Me either. Oh, man, that's crazy. That's so funny. All right, Jared. So mine has to do with birds.
okay.
And it's Czech. Kiedyś ptaczka lapají pięknie mój śpiewají, which
that sounded
means basically to trap a bird, you need to sing to it nicely.
Ooh. You catch more flies with honey than honeys with... Nope, that's not how that goes.
You're on the right track. You
catch more bees with honey than vinegar.
There you go.
Or
I prefer the saying.
How does that go?
No, you're right. That's how it goes.
Oh, okay.
I prefer the saying though. You're absolutely right, but I prefer the saying that goes. You catch more flies with honey, but you catch more honeys being fly.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You catch more flies. You catch flies with honey, but you catch more flies being Wait.
No, you catch more honeys being fly. They flip.
All right. Let's move on. My next one is Gaelic, and it's okay.
Can you tell our listeners where they speak Gaelic?
Northern Ireland?
I believe so. I know it's Ireland.
Okay. I mean, let's see. Irish is wait, hold on. Ireland and the United Kingdom. Okay, so maybe not Northern Ireland, but it's spoken in. Now I kind of want to put this into the translator because I'm real scared, and I'm almost kind of curious what this would actually sound like if it was said correctly.
Right. Yeah.
This is gonna take. I guess it's only gonna take 1 second.
No worries. Take your time.
I do have another one though while I'm doing this, and it's also Thai, and it's Kluea Chim Kluea, and it literally means salt dipped in salt.
So is that like adding insult to injury?
No. So think about Think about what I told you about Don and I on vacation. And say he comes to Prague and he's got a whole list of things that he insists we have to do and a whole structure. And I'm like, get out of here with that structure. I told you. And he's like, no, these are better than any of your ideas. We're doing this. And you're like, whoo. And you're like, whoo. You're in the background like, whoo, this is some real salt dipped in salt right here. I don't know what we're going to do about this.
So it's like a conundrum or like a situation?
Might the situation. No, it's kind of, but it's like like no one's conceding with one another.
No one willing to back down. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I did all of that, and then freaking Google Translator doesn't even have a Gaelic person on their thing, so it won't.
Let's save it for the next episode.
Yeah, I'll figure that out. That's a teaser for no one.
That's right. Well, let's get into our main topic, shall we?
Yeah. We haven't done a teacher topic in a while, and sometimes I like to check in with you. You know, how have the new students been? First of all,
right. Good. Great. Absolutely fantastic. This semester has been interesting though because one, I have to rebuild that rapport with the students. Mm-hmm. Which I think one thing, it takes time. There's no other way to do it, right? You could be the most charismatic, the funniest, the coolest, the best teacher in the world, but you still need time for your students to develop that trust, for you to develop the trust in your students as well. Let
me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Have you tried sitting in your chair backwards, facing them, and just like unbuttoning your top button and really breaking it down for them? I've heard that the sitting in the chair backwards thing really, you know what I mean? Where you like have your legs around it. The kids seem to...
Oh, gotcha. Wait, here, you mean like this?
Yes, there.
So we turn the chair on YouTube. Well, you can't even really... Hold up here.
Well, that's true.
We'll change this.
Hilarious.
Right. Yeah, so you sit like this.
And you say, let me just rap with you guys real quick.
Kind of undo the button. And, all right, class. So here we go.
Dude, by the way, I feel like the whole vibe of this podcast has just changed.
It's changed? Should I do all the podcasts like this now?
Whoa. What has just happened?
Chad isn't even here
a little
anymore.
bit here. This is a whole different podcast all of a sudden. You
right.
see, and I was joking a second ago. Now I'm like, Chad seems so much more relaxed.
Which is funny though, because when you sit in a chair like this, you're basically like straddling the chair, right?
Yes.
There's really no other way to sit than lean forward like this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think is actually a good thing because it makes the students think you're interested, you're engaged with what they're talking about.
Oh, so maybe there's some actual science to that, because that is
Could
true.
be.
That like that leaning in is like a subtle body language thing.
Right. Which is funny because I'm going to turn my chair around because this is not
Damn, I was
comfortable.
really enjoying that.
It's a wood chair, so it's not the most comfortable.
It's a pretty shitty
to
chair
pull
you
that
got
off.
there, Chad.
It's not bad. I mean, hey, hasn't broken on me yet, so.
Like, I mean, if that's your only standard, then okay.
What's funny though is so I'll move this down again. So the way I sit when I teach is usually kind of like this,
Okay.
slightly lean back.
But that's another sort of the opposite sort of power move.
Sure.
Which is, well, maybe it's less sitting the lean back sitting, but it's the sitting with your hands out like that. Is that subtle sort of that like comfortable open vibe is instead of like doing this or crossing your arms is what I'm saying for you
I
podcast
will tell you,
listeners.
there's one thing I do consciously with my posture and my body language. It's gonna sound really stupid, but a lot of times when I teach, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, you don't want to do too much hand gesturing. You also, so usually what I do is I'll stand with my hands behind my back like this. And what's interesting though, on a psychological
but not in your
level,
pockets.
Not in my pockets, behind my back like that.
Right.
Right? I mean, you can't really see. But anyways, just trust me on this, people. But the interesting thing about this is that body language and posture actually has a psychological effect on a lot of people, or at least basically what it shows is because your hands are behind your back and your chest is kind of out and open like this, in theory,
Hit me.
it's like it's a way to show you're comfortable, and in a way you're like vulnerable. Right?
Right.
As in,
Kind of like what I said. Kind of like the hit me thing.
Exactly. If you came up to me and swung at me right now with my hands behind my back,
You just have to,
you'd land a damn good punch probably.
I can think of the words you might be looking for. It's a very disarming position.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think it makes the students a little bit more calm. When you walk around, depending on how your posture is and things like this, I think there's a lot of subtle things that students pick up on that if you've never taught before, you don't realize you're doing it.
Now, did you have to like kind of train yourself out of some bad habits? Say, for example, putting your hands in your pocket or crossing your arms, or did
Crossing
this just
my
come?
arms, definitely.
You had to kind of. Did you have kind of like consciously stop yourself from doing
I
that?
did. I'm actually doing it right now, kind of. But yeah,
You do it a lot on the podcast, but I kind of like it. I don't.
It's because this is comfortable to sit and lean forward with my arms like
Right.
that. It's just more comfortable. Plus, let's be honest. I'm too far away from the microphone, and it's not a good look.
You can
to sit, lean back like that. I can hold the mic.
Bill Burr, he obviously a lot of people, if you listen to podcasts, have heard of Bill Burr. He does a very popular podcast. He sometimes will he just holds his microphone, and he'll sometimes just lie in bed and have the microphone sitting on his chest.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's awesome. Who knows? Maybe if we do another late night podcast, that's what I'll have to do.
Oh, that would be so funny. We just get back from like the bar at like 3 a.m. We're just lying
That would
in
be
bed.
hilarious. That'd be
Like
really funny.
a sleepover. That's what we'll call it. Episode 93, the sleepover.
The Berlin sleepover Berlin edition.
I don't know why
right?
I've chose such a high number. Like we're on 73 now, and how is it going to be 93 before?
But anyways, to get back to your question, bad habits. I mean, that's the thing. If you're a beginning teacher, don't be afraid to have, I would say, colleagues come and observe you. I say colleagues and not like your superiors, because with your superiors, what a lot of teachers do is they don't teach the same way they teach, right?
Of course,
they're like,
yeah.
oh, my superior's coming in. I have to have this perfectly planned lesson. Everything needs to be great.
That's the same thing in my job too. I mean,
right.
Like if you're, say someone's presenting or like in a meeting with just your group rather than like the boss of this department or whatever, there's a whole nother like level to what you put into your presentation and your and preparing for it.
Right. And so to have a colleague come observe you is really great. And sometimes I also ask students for feedback. Sometimes it's good to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. But the thing is about habits, one of my habits that I realized was I didn't like silence in my classroom, right? Because a lot of my classes are speaking and listening. But here's the thing. Whenever you teach any class, I don't care if it's a language class, a science class, whatever, people need time to think. So my rule of thumb is, depending on the topic and depending on what I ask, I'll give different amounts of time, right? If it's just, I'm looking for one vocabulary word, I would say 15 seconds maximum. Whereas if it's a more philosophical question or they're giving me a lot of information or I've asked a difficult question, then I try to give them time. And if I ask the class and nobody wants to answer, what I'll do is I'll go, okay, share your answers with a partner. Then I can kind of, observe what they're saying and either comment on it, or then I say, okay, look, I've heard all of you talk to your partners. I know you guys have an answer. Let's hear it.
Right.
And I think a lot of times just them...
You have to pull it out of them.
Right. So, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But that's one thing. If you're especially a language teacher or teacher in general, don't be afraid of silence. Silence can be good. That's
something I never thought about, as obviously I'm not a teacher, but I've been to school before. I've definitely noticed that, though, is that teachers, and I probably even noticed the difference between like that, say, versus a TA for some college class I had at Albion. Now that you've mentioned it, where it's like there are teachers that are very good at asking a question and not letting kids, especially in all my classes where they've all been mostly English speakers or whatever, where it's like not letting them get away with saying I don't know. And just be like, I know you guys know, so answer this question, sort of thing. And it is an awkward silence, even to the point where sometimes it can get awkward for the students. For then the students are like, can someone answer this damn question?
Right, right. And sometimes then you just have to call out some students.
Yeah.
Johnny, tell me the answer. I don't like to do that because I like to try to foster an environment in my classes where students they all feel comfortable. Where the students all feel comfortable. And so I try to minimize that when possible, but sometimes you can't.
For sure.
That's for sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
What were you about to say? I was going to change.
I'm a big fan of also having the students do a lot of work together and then reporting back to me. I really like that.
Have you gotten, so as you mentioned, you have a new class now in your second semester there in Chomutov. How was that?
That was pretty good.
Do you in your however many years of teaching on and off, have you gotten better at setting that rapport quicker with your students? Have you figured out ways to sort of, because as I'm sure a lot of classes that you have, you're only seeing these people say once a week.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes, if you only say have, I don't know, how many classes are in a semester? 12 classes? 10 classes?
Depends on the school.
If it takes you 3 to 4 classes to figure out these people, that's 35 to 40% of the time you have, or excuse me, to get to know the people.
Right.
That's 35 to 40% of your teaching time, and the quicker, the more you can cut down that time, I think the more effective teaching time you could have, I would assume.
Yeah. Well, it makes a difference. I've taught classes where we've met 5 days a week. I've taught classes where right now I'm teaching classes we only meet once a week. And the reason why that is because my mentor thought it would be smarter, for all the students to have a chance to have me as their teacher. And because there are so many classes at my school, it's not possible. If I taught 2 classes a week, I'd be teaching upwards of 40 lessons a week, somewhere around there. And that's double. Usually I think the standard in the Czech Republic is like 20 to 24 contact lessons a week, somewhere around there. I'm above 20, so there you go. But I think
with once a week. Oh, but you teach multiple classes.
Multiple classes, yeah.
Right.
But the thing is, you can definitely build a rapport a lot faster when you meet more than once a week. So what I try to do is make my lessons just a lot of fun, a lot of games, a lot of getting to know each other, a lot of just talking about whatever.
Do people respond to those games well?
So last semester I taught I taught all of the 3rd and 4th year students. They occasionally did, but I tell you what, man, these 1st and 2nd year students, They're way more excited to play games.
Did you do another Reddit AMA?
I did.
And you haven't. How did it go? What kind of questions?
It was all pretty basic stuff. That's why I didn't really bring it up. There was nothing, nothing crazy exciting, nothing off the wall.
These people are younger, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're less inclined to ask
15,
political
16.
or sexual stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Although 15, 16 seems prime here in America for those questions. I saw a video on Twitter or Instagram today, and it was Godfrey, this funny comedian, New York comedian. He was on the road somewhere in the suburbs, and he was at a mall, some suburban mall, and there was a bunch of white kids. Looked like they were in their 13.
Oh, and they had the do-rags on.
Yeah. They're showing off their waves. So stupid.
Right.
Oh my god.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah. But I think the other thing too, with building rapport with students, is you have to make it relatable, and you have to make it. Here's my next point. Well, this will segue into my next point. The classroom, a lot of teachers think this is my classroom. It's not your classroom. It's the student's classroom. You're trying to teach the students. You're trying to
facilitate.
Facilitate, give them good memories, make them feel comfortable. I mean, if on a daily basis, if I only reach one student in every class, I'm happy.
Now, let me ask you this. Can you tell most days, say if there is at least one, or I'm sure there's often more than one, but can you tell when you've reached that student? Are you like, oh yeah, I did it, or oh, that was a good, I even though that was kind of a rough class, I feel good because little Jan number 8 really knocked this out of the park or whatever. Does that sustain you?
Oh, sure.
For a night or whatever?
It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
And you can tell.
Well, the way I usually notice these things is when students, you can just tell. You can tell when someone's genuinely interested in something, right?
Because I don't know if it was a more you could tell in the moment, or if it was just more a bigger picture thing, where it's I know that what I'm
both.
doing has that. I'm sure it's that too, but
So here's the two ways I can tell. If it's just you've reached them that lesson, they'll ask a lot of questions. I've had a lot of students, especially this semester, after class, come up to me
engaged they are.
And want to talk more about it, which makes me super excited.
That's cool. Yeah, that's when you flip the chair around.
Exactly. That's a great point. That's a really great point. Sadly, my office chair is a big computer chair, so that wouldn't work.
Your face is blocked by the cushion.
I'd flip over. The chair would flip over for sure. But yeah, but then in the long term, the way I can tell I've reached them is when they start building upon their language skills that we've worked on in previous lessons. So whether it's doing stuff in past tense, new vocabulary words. This week for my second graders, I'll be having them tell ghost stories because that's the unit in their chapter right now. And so we're going to talk about how to actually tell a story, because I think there's something special about being able to really grab someone's attention and really tell a story, make a story.
Can you teach me how to do that?
I can try. No guarantees. But yeah, so that's the thing though. I think a lot of teachers don't understand that it's the students' classrooms even more than it's yours. Even if you work in a public school in the United States, you decorate the entire room, you spend your own hard-earned money to decorate this room and make this environment. The thing is, you're not making the environment for yourself. You're making the environment for the students.
I forgot what I was going to ask. I was so wrapped up in what you were saying. Do you still get nervous? When you get new classes?
Nope.
No.
I get excited. It's more like a giddy. It's I can't wait to see what the potential of this class will be.
Okay.
I don't get nervous anymore. And honestly, I stopped getting nervous after probably my first or second semester as a teaching assistant.
Oh, it didn't take that long, did it?
It didn't. But you know me pretty well, Jared. I've done a lot of different things with public speaking. I used to play in, bands. So getting up in front of people doesn't really faze me very much.
That's true. Did you ever teach guitar?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, it's funny. I wrote on my application for this program, that my passion for teaching actually started when I was 14. I gave my first guitar lesson.
And I mean, I remember what I wanted to say earlier, but I mean, I think it's undeniable, especially for someone like you that is going after language jobs, that connection between being a music teacher and being a language teacher is like almost undeniable.
Oh, absolutely.
Like undeniably useful, especially on the resume. I mean, that could still probably look good on your resume as if you, for in the future. What I was going to say was another good thing about you as a teacher specifically, and getting that response. The response that you've touched someone, with your teaching.
Whoa there. Okay, good.
Touched someone
I was
with your
gonna
teaching.
say.
Is I saw you in your PJs. You really touched me with your teaching. Is that I mean, is that you're a? I'm sorry. Is that
spread a little love?
You're a language teacher, so you can also get that response back, seeing that they're improving even through a non-classroom setting. So, say you're a math teacher or a history teacher or something like that. It's probably a little bit harder outside of the classroom to recognize that improvement or that knowledge growth, unless you're talking about the subject specifically.
Right. Well, and see, I have a natural advantage because my Czech isn't great. So I can't really communicate with the students at a high level in their native language.
Right.
So they have to speak to me in English.
Have you taught Germans English before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that a hindrance, being able to communicate with them just as well?
Yes and no. Yes and no. So I worked with a German woman the summer before I came here, actually. And I would say I wanted to have our sessions be 100% in English. Oh man, was I naive. It was easily 70% German, 30% English.
What was their level? Nothing?
Well, here's the thing. I think she was very self-conscious because she thought I would think she was unintelligent if she made mistakes.
Yeah.
You
got to kind of look at it like and I'm actually, my teacher's constantly reminding me of this too, but you almost kind of have to look at it like you're going to a doctor. Or something like that, where it's like you can't be ashamed. You can't go into it ashamed of where you're at, or fooling yourself at where you're at. The teacher is the last person that's going to be making fun of you for your level, especially if you paid them to.
Right.
But I struggle with that too in piano, where like I feel like I tense up sometimes when I play, and I get nervous when I play.
Sure.
And she's like, "This is the last place you should be getting nervous."
Right. I mean, I think the thing is that you don't want to let your teachers down. You want to impress them. You want to show them you've been working hard, you've been learning.
Right.
And so I think that's where the nervousness comes from.
That is what it is for me.
Right. And as a teacher, there's a lot of ways you can kind of not really avoid it, but minimize it with the nervousness. A lot of times, if I can throw in a joke, I'll tell a joke. I'll try to, I've even referenced like memes in my language classes before.
Those are essentially universal at this point.
Right. There's even a meme page at my school.
Like a Facebook page? What do you mean a meme page?
Yeah. Facebook page that's all memes. And one of my friends...
School-wide?
Well, no, it's just our school, and they have pictures of the teachers
right. I
with
forget
funny...
how schools are broken down.
Right.
I feel like that could get dangerous quick.
Oh, most definitely. But that's the thing, though. You just have
to... Not?
I mean, I've looked at them. Some of them I understand. Some of them I don't. So
okay.
But yeah,
maybe you don't want to know what they say.
Right. Maybe not. But yeah. So I don't know. I think as a teacher, you just have to be willing to try to make the students as comfortable as possible, while also still reaching your objectives, goals, what have you.
Yeah. Do you struggle to find that line between like friend and authoritarian?
Depends on the environment. So here, yes, absolutely, because students invite me to go do things. Last week I played guitar with one of my students, Peter. I'll be going back to his house on Wednesday to play some more guitar. So it's difficult walking the line, and I also have a Czech friend named Christina. I think it's Christina. And she actually gave me like the 16 personality test. And I think it's ENFP. Let me look real quick. It's either ENFP. Basically what it means is, it's funny. A profession as a teacher is a good suggested profession, but they say that this type of personality, teachers will have difficulties.
Tend to be serial killers?
No. This personality type is difficult for teachers to kind of, toe the line between authoritarian and friend, right? I want to be there for my students. I want them to feel comfortable enough to come to me whenever they need anything. It could be school related. Maybe they're having problems at home and they just need somebody to talk to, And I don't know. I think some people, it depends on your view of what a teacher is, right? I think some people just think of a teacher as someone who goes into the classroom, teaches the material, and goes home. I don't really think nowadays that's how a teacher is. I think a teacher is part counselor, depending on the age of your students, maybe part babysitter. We did an entire episode on this, the roles of teachers, right?
Right.
Actors, sometimes comedians, counselors, therapists, what have you. I
never felt comfortable going to a teacher like that. And maybe that's the fault of all the schools I went to more than anything.
Could be. Or it could be the teachers, it could be you. It's hard to say.
I had teachers that I was comfortable to talk to, but none that I ever felt like I could seriously confide in. But I could have a conversation that felt quasi-casual,
Sure. Another thing I wish I would have known when I started as a teacher is don't spend more than the time of the lesson preparing materials. What I mean by this is if your lesson is 50 minutes, you should not be spending more than 50 minutes to plan the lesson.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Where it's either you're not planning efficiently or you're over planning because you have to think about the amount of time you have to let other people talk too.
Right. And I think when you're planning your lessons, a lot of times less is more. I'm the type of person, I overplan my lessons. And there's some of it is there's a reason for that. I like to have a couple backups. And usually the way I plan my lessons, I plan them in a way that, I would love to be able to do all of these things, but I know which things we need to do or we should be doing, and I know which ones I can leave out either for next time or just, kind of let it go by the wayside.
Right. But I sometimes with that over planning, at least from what I've noticed, especially with doing this podcast, is if you plan or if one plans too much, room isn't allowed for it to go where it could naturally go.
Exactly.
And in reality, especially in a language class, a class where you're sort of teaching a language conversationally, you never really know where the conversation can go or where the teaching could go.
Right, and you should leave your language classes open for this type of thing. At the same time, you should also be thinking, what are some potential things you want to touch on? Exactly, and have some goals. Exactly, but I think some teachers they overplan, and it happens. You care about your students, you care about your lessons, you want it to be the best they can be, but you overplan. The other thing that I wish I would have known when I first started. And maybe you noticed this around November, Jared. I was having some throat problems. And it was because I was talking over students. Don't talk over students. Just eye contact is a very powerful tool. Now what I do is I stop talking. Uncomfortable. Right. What I do is I stop talking and I'll just stare down the students. I don't like doing it. I don't enjoy it. But
that's where you have to draw that line between teacher and authoritarian as well.
Exactly. The other thing I'll do too is
order in my classroom.
Right, exactly. I should bring a gavel and just smack the gavel down. Another thing though that I've started to do is if I notice students are starting to kind of chatter in their groups when I'm trying to explain something, I'll bring the volume of my voice down. And so when I talk more quiet, the students, they really have to pay attention.
Yeah, that got me more interested.
Did it? See?
Yeah, it worked. I was like, shit.
What was that? I should start doing the hello, this is the Untranslatable podcast.
The
NPR voice, yeah.
I wish I could do it. I'm just so exuberant with my talk.
Right.
I can't control myself.
Right. That's okay. But yeah, I mean, don't yell, don't talk over your students because it's just one, it's not good for your vocal cords to do that. I was teaching over 20 hours a week. I had some classes that would get really rowdy, and I would talk over the students. And it was funny. One of my bosses came to observe my lessons and talk to me. And I told her, I said, yeah, I've been having problems with my voice. And she said, every year, November comes around, you've been teaching for a couple of months, full time, and it happens. And so now I've really learned, I try to be much more conscious of when I actually talk, which is interesting because a lot of my colleagues have the opinion, and I don't think they're wrong, but they have the opinion that I should be doing a lot of talking because I'm a native speaker. And, how many times will our students have the opportunity to be in the classroom with a native speaker? Exactly. But here's the thing. I'm not the only native speaker they can listen to. With the internet, with Netflix, with YouTube, they can listen to millions of native speakers. So I think it's better for me to give my cultural insights, my intuition about the language, and get the students...
teaching them how to partake in those.
Exactly.
Because they can listen to them, but then there's also something to applying it.
Exactly.
And all those sort of conversations they're seeing on whatever that is, YouTube or Twitter or whatever, they don't do Twitter, Instagram. It's a little different when you apply it. You can understand it and not apply it.
Oh, definitely. And the other thing with it too is I view my role here in Chomutov as someone who should build the students' confidence. I think for a lot of them, it's crazy. I love to ask the question, for how many of you I'm the first American you've ever met? Mm-hmm. Usually it's at least 50, if not 70% of the class, which means if I can get them comfortable talking to me as a native speaker, they'll be a lot less phased when they see a native speaker in real life and can talk to them. Because I think that's a really big problem with most people in the Czech Republic. Other than Prague, where there's tourists and, English all over the place, other than Prague, most smaller places in the Czech Republic, they may not come into contact with a lot of native speakers, so they get very intimidated. And so I'm trying to kind of break down those barriers.
Yeah. That's a big role for one person to carry on, but I respect it.
Right.
And I get it. Do you have a mentor? Someone you go to for career advice?
Of course. I have a mentor here in the Czech Republic.
No, that's not what I mean. I guess I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good.
But I didn't mean that kind of mentor specifically.
And I have a couple contacts back at MSU that if I have questions, I'll shoot them an email. Things like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
exactly. I'm lucky to have quite a few who I think I could send an email anytime, or even be like, look, do you have 5 minutes? Can we Skype really quickly?
Have you done that before?
I have not, because knock on wood, I haven't had too many questions. And the questions I've had, I've been able to ask my mentor here. What?
But you'd feel comfortable doing it.
100%.
And I think I've noticed that post, after graduating from undergrad, not in my own experience, but more witnessing people like Chris. Our friend Chris, still has a good relationship with some professors at our school. Right. And, I think sometimes, at least I personally think that the relationship is a little different because they're professors rather than like teaching kids. But if it's a student that was engaged in the material and is applying or whatever, then they're still teachers, and they still seem to have that connection to, and like you said, recognize those students that are actually engaging with the material more than some other people. And so Chris, who is one of those people with those specific classes of professors or whatever, they still like that, because it's like I'm sure they like to see that their student is succeeding and crediting them as one of their favorite or most influential professors and all that stuff.
Right. Oh, definitely, most definitely. And this is loosely related to what you said a little bit, at least when you go from that student professor dynamic to like colleague dynamic, which I think is more prevalent in graduate school. One thing I wish I would have done a little bit more is try to help out my fellow teachers. Here, I've been doing that a lot. I suggest activities, I show them websites, I show them videos. We watched a really funny video last week. It was on, there's this TED Talk where this guy did a study where I think it was Stanford did a study where they put 4-year-olds in a room with a marshmallow. And they said, and they videotaped it, right? And they said, look, if you can wait 15 minutes, you will get 2 marshmallows instead of 1. Well, two out of 3 children
couldn't wait.
Plop the marshmallow right in their mouth after the door shut behind them, right? And so I showed my colleagues this video, and they thought it was hilarious. And so,
what was the point they're trying to prove?
They're trying to the point with that video is they're trying to prove that children at the age of 4 who understand that delaying immediate gratification for something, if you can do that, you'll be more successful in life. And it's been proven true. Actually, 100% of the students that waited to get the 2 marshmallows, I don't know how they define successful, but were considered successful. Either they were doing well in school or
it was a long-term... I think it was like a long-term study.
It was. They went back and found the children that waited to get the 2 marshmallows.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So we watched that video.
Were they like lawyers or something like that? Or like...
Well, I mean, it seemed like they had good career paths. So yeah. But so that's my whole point, though, is share things with your teachers, with your colleagues, you know? And I've learned a lot from my teachers here. You know?
That's something... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's it.
That's something that I struggle to apply sometimes to my job as well, you know, sharing stuff. Because I almost feel like sometimes that, like, if I know it and other people don't, it's sort of like a job security thing.
Gotcha.
And I guess teachers wouldn't have that same sort of feeling, though.
Not really.
That's not really how the job works.
Right.
But and honestly, that's not really how my job works either. You know what I mean? So that's I think it's, you know, that mentality is kind of foolish for me to have even in my style of work as well.
Right.
But that's something I try to remind myself too, is to share. And it helps you both ways too, because, you know, it helps your colleagues, but it also sometimes people will be more inclined to share stuff with you.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing that I was fairly lucky with, but I've had some colleagues, not here in the Czech Republic, but in the past that struggled with this a little bit, is being authentic. I think if you show a genuine interest in your students, if you're really authentic, you're able to reach them, they're able to, it just creates a good dynamic. You know, as you know, and our listeners know, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm not one that I try not to put up a front or a barrier. When I meet people, I try to just be myself. If you don't like me, you know, that's your problem. That's not my problem.
Many fregis.
Exactly. And so what I try to do is be as authentic as possible with my students. You know, on Monday morning, if I'm tired, I'll walk in and one of the first things I'll say is, why can't the weekend be longer?
Yeah.
You know, and I think students respond to that.
Yeah. You don't go in and say, early bird gets the worm.
I don't.
Chippity chooda, chippity doodah, chippity chooda. I don't know what I'm saying.
There's a new drop right there. Chippity chooda. There's nothing you can do with stupid people. Oh yes.
By the way, new drop day. I've been trying to figure out a place to stick that one in there.
There's nothing you can do with stupid people. That's a good
lesson
one
for you, right?
I like that. That's good.
Chippity
it's true.
Chooda.
But yeah, so yeah, being authentic is important, and it allows you to reach your students, which I think is really, really important as well. Another thing too that I think a lot of teachers should be aware of is that student behavior, a lot of times, yes, there are obviously, you know, external factors going on in their lives, but a lot of it is the product of the classroom, right?
Right.
The way you manage your classroom will change the way the students behave. And that's why I stopped talking over students. Because if you talk over students, I think a lot of students will think, oh, well, he's just going to talk over me. I'll just keep talking. But if I lower the volume...
Oh, yeah, sorry. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then also in addition to that, like, it's just not like almost, I don't know what the right word is, but it's like not a good look at, like, as the teacher to be fighting with the students like that for speaking time.
and honestly, yes, class time is valuable. There's no doubt about it. I wish my lessons here were longer than 45 minutes. But the thing is, I think if you really want to be respected by your students, sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit of class time and just say, all right, well, you guys I'm not going to speak until you're done talking.
Yeah.
You know, or make eye contact with them and things like this. The other thing that I've really learned while being here and I think this applies to not only teachers, but all walks of life. Get to know everybody. I love the fact that I can go to my school. I mean, sometimes I feel like a broken record, but there's people I'm saying dobrý den, hello, ahoy, to everybody at school. I know everybody. Everybody knows me. It's great. It makes me look forward to, I'm a social guy. It makes me happy going into that environment, knowing I have all these people I know, a lot of these people that I know even more than just on a hello basis that I really like. I enjoy talking to them, being around them. And I think that also, as a teacher, gets you in a positive mindset to get ready to teach. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you mean. And other things come out of that sort of positive mindset. Like, isn't one of those people you say ahoy to or dobrý den to every day the one that drove you to Dresden with David?
Right. They're
people
a friend
respond.
basis.
People respond to that.
Right.
And,
definitely.
And this is something I struggle with. But like, you're not doing yourself any favors by not getting to know the people that you're around more than anyone, really.
Right.
Right. And so it's only makes it easier to go to work if you there's one thing to not minding the people that you're around, but there's another thing to having like a relationship with them. And
Exactly.
I struggle to figure out where that line is of the relationship because
it's difficult.
Because I sometimes get a little nervous about getting a little too friendly,
Sure. And this also kind of goes into teaching a little bit where it's better you can always start off a little bit more distant and then move closer to the friendship. It's the same thing with managing a classroom. It's easier to start as the authoritarian and ease up, as the semester progresses, instead of being all the students' friends and, oh, he's such a cool guy. And then, the next day, Monday rolls around, and then, it's like you're a drill sergeant. The students won't respond to that. It won't go over for anyone well. Exactly.
Yeah.
See, and that's my problem, is I tend to, here's the thing, I like to give students and people in general the benefit of the doubt. So what that means is...
It's really annoying.
Right. And I probably shouldn't a lot of times. And so you have to find that line, but it's definitely easier to start more strict and ease in as the semester progresses. Mm-hmm. And the last two things I want to mention are ask questions. What I mean by this is when you find out something about your students, ask them questions. I love to ask on Mondays, what did you do during the weekend? And a lot of the time, it's the same thing. It's, I didn't do anything. I played video games all weekend, whatever. But, sometimes especially, you'll get students who don't talk as much, who might add something that you don't know as well. And when they add something like, oh, I actually went to, I'm trying to think of an example here. Oh, I went four-wheeling in the mountains with my family. There's so many questions. Yeah. There's so many questions you can ask. Where did you go? How long have you been, riding on a four-wheeler? Are you into motocross? There's all these questions you can ask. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed is when you do this, those students who are a little bit more quiet will open up because you're showing genuine, once again, we're going back to the genuine interest thing. You're showing genuine interest. And I think if people think you care about them and if they think that they have something to add of value, they will add it. But if they think, oh, he doesn't care that I went four-wheeling, it's stupid, no one needs to hear it, they're not going to say it. It's simple as that.
Dude, that sort of thinking runs through my head all day long with everything I do.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No one else cares. Who cares? Like, not who cares, but like no one is that interested in what I have to say or what I'm doing, and not even in like a I'm not doing anything. Like not even in a negative way. Well, it is negative to myself, but I don't really see it as negative to myself. But there is this sort of constant thing where it's like you don't have to bring that up. No one really cares, or like It's just like you're not that. It's not that interesting. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. But hey, look in the mirror tomorrow morning, Jared. You are smart. You are beautiful, and you are important.
All right, listen.
That's all you need.
Can you think of? Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm really trying to just take that. Can you think of any sort of like, everyone can probably think of some moment, maybe when during their childhood or some moment where they did something that they're still embarrassed about that really probably no one else remembers. Mm-hmm. Can you think of any specific sort of teaching ones where you're like, that's a mistake or a moment I hope I never have to revisit?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean,
wow, you didn't even have to think about it.
You mean me as the teacher, not as the student, right? Yeah, me as the teacher. Mm-hmm. So, oh yeah, dude. When I was here in the Czech Republic, I wanted the students to do an activity. I call it Find Someone Who. So basically, I show them a list of statements. They have to find someone who that statement is true for, right? So for us, I would be like, is the co-host of a podcast, is coming to Berlin in a week, and all these things. And these would be questions I would ask you. If they're true, you say yes, you sign my paper, right? It's like a little autograph game. Well, I explained it, and I thought I explained it very clearly. And then I told the students, all right, so talk to your classmates. And I gave them, I think, 2 minutes, and they all sat in their seats and talked to the people next to them. So they still did talking, which was fine. But the whole point is to get around and mingle.
Right.
And get other answers. And then like a minute went by and I'm like, why aren't they moving? Like, what's going on? And then I was like, you know what? I must have not explained it properly.
Yeah.
And so that really made me a lot more conscious about, you have to really think about every word you put in when you explain something. When you explain the activity, the rules of a game, whatever it may be, it's important to be clear. And I always like to also then do an example. So if you were in my class, Jared, and you were singing, I like to pick on people at the front row and in the back. And so if you were sitting in the back, which I know you probably would be.
How dare you?
I would say, all right, so if I was working with Jared for this activity, I would ask him this question. If it's true, he signs it. And then I should ask him a follow-up question, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you do that, that also kind of models how you do the activity. And that's really, really useful. But that was kind of embarrassing where I like looked at my colleague who, I have the Czech teachers in the classroom with me in case anything goes wrong. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm usually the one actually teaching the material, they're just there. And it's really funny. I made eye contact with my Czech teacher and we both were kind of like, what's going on? We thought this was clear what they were supposed to do. So it was kind of funny.
As someone, that makes sense though, because you as someone that is essentially explaining a made up game, at least in their eyes.
Yeah.
And so say like any sort of game that you don't know how to play, if like you can't really, sometimes when you read instructions for a game, you're like, this seems obvious. But at the same time, the instructions can't assume you know anything about the game. Right. And so when you're explaining that to students that are, and on top of that are not native English speakers, you have to, I'm sure there's a lot more thought that has to be put into, there's a line between sounding condescending and explaining something, and maybe sometimes you might have to go to the side of sounding condescending, even though this is how instructions would be explained in any language. That's just how it is. And maybe that's just,
Exactly. And the other thing too, when you're a teacher, don't be afraid to go out on a limb and try something new. Try something. It may crash and burn, but I think it's worth a try, and you can learn something from it. Your students will probably learn something from it. And a lot of teaching is really trial and error. You can buy a textbook. I have a book that has I think it's either 500 or 700 activities for the language classroom, something crazy like that, right? But the beauty of being a teacher, and especially a language teacher, is you can always, kind of pick and choose and modify and change. And so the great thing about trying something new is, okay, with this class it might not have worked, but maybe if I tweak this little thing, or if I do this. So don't be afraid to experiment and try something new. Whenever you're teaching. And I think it's very easy to become comfortable. The students like these activities, XYZ works, so you always want to do that. But I think everybody needs a change of pace. It stimulates the brain. It's just very important to do. And the last thing I want to mention is I have a firm policy. I didn't do this in graduate school, but I'm doing it now. I only work on school-related things for the most part when I'm at school. Sundays, I do some lesson prepping, but I don't spend more than 45 minutes.
Oh, that's good. That takes discipline, though. That means you have to actually work when you're at work.
Exactly. But I think it's worth it. It pays a lot of dividends.
I've been friends with a lot of teachers, and I know a lot of teachers that tend to not do that.
Right.
And teachers, it's so funny that ironically teachers seem to be like in my head as far as procrastinators go, some of the biggest procrastinators out
Sure.
there.
Yeah, they can be. I can be a procrastinator, no doubt. But yeah, I think it's good to just leave the work at work and home is home. And the other, I guess one other last little tidbit is have fun. Your students know when you're having fun and when you're interested. Obviously, this won't happen with every lesson you teach, but usually the more fun you have, the more fun the students will have as well.
And even if you're not having fun, care about what it is you're teaching about. I think if you're not having fun, students can tell when you're interested in what you're teaching.
Oh, definitely. Without
So
a
it doesn't
doubt.
have to be fun, but it's still, you could still be, engaged.
Right. And if it's a topic you don't know very much about or you don't care much about, use the students as your inspiration. What I mean by this is, I've had to teach lessons on car parts and stuff. Frankly, I wish you could have flown over here and taught those lessons because they would have been great. But, I don't know very much about cars. The students, to be honest, knew more about how a lot of the car parts function than I did.
Right.
So I took that as an opportunity. All right, today you guys get to be the teachers.
Yeah, tell me how cars work.
Exactly. So
That's smart.
Yeah.
Did you learn?
Of course.
What kind of stuff did you learn?
Oh, I knew. You should have picked a different example. I knew you were going to do this. We talked about, what is it even called? The different types of like combustion, the different like the cylinders, 4 cylinders, right?
Oh, the 4 strokes.
Strokes. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Of
we were
an
talking
internal
about
combustion engine. Yeah.
that. Exactly. We were talking.
Do you know
about
what they
that.
are?
No, not anymore. I did. If you have asked me this a couple months ago, I could have given you an
I think
answer.
I can do it. I think I can do it. It's intake, compression, ignition, exhaust.
There you go. Sounds good to me. Sounds right.
That is right.
Good work.
Now I think about it, that's what it is. There you go.
Makes sense. So those are my tips for new teachers and some things I wish I would have known. Is there any other questions, Jared? I love all these questions you've been asking me. These have been fantastic.
No, I think that's about it. Do you get overwhelmed? Did I ask that?
Well, I think this goes back to the leave work at work and home at home. I don't.
That's why, yeah. You
I
did
don't.
kind of answer
Not
it.
really.
Well, that's good.
I will say I bit off more than I could chew in the first semester because I had the extracurricular like clubs we were doing. It was just too much.
You cut some of those off?
I did. Yeah.
Which ones?
So now sadly, I cut off the technology club. One, because the participants went really low. By the end of the semester, last semester, we only had 1 to 2 students coming to each meeting. And, I was
It's not
spending 20 to
sustainable.
30 minutes planning these meetings.
Yeah.
And then, one student would come. So we cut that off. And for a while, I was doing a conversation club after school twice a week. That's now down to once a week. So I'm at the school now until 2:00, which doesn't sound bad at all for our normal 9 to 5ers.
Yeah.
But I'm at
how
the
dare
school.
you?
I'm at the
Once
school.
again, how dare you?
Right. I'm at school on Mondays through Wednesdays until 2:00, until 4:00. Until 4:00.
Oh, that's not-
So
all right.
I get in at 7:30. I'm out at 4. And then
okay, that's
Thursdays,
not that bad.
Thursdays I'm done at 1:30 or 2. Fridays are crazy. Fridays I'm done at 9:35.
Oh, wow. I assume you mean in the morning, obviously.
Yeah.
And then you're just free.
Free
That
as a
is
bird.
great for as far as planning a weekend goes, because you essentially
sir.
have a 4-day weekend every week.
Yep.
Or excuse me, a
3-day.
3-day weekend, not 4.
I wish it would be 4, but yeah. So it's pretty good. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So I hope you all have enjoyed this and gotten some insight, either as a teacher, as a student, or just a normal person like we all are. So we hope you've enjoyed. I want to thank you, Jared, for all the really good questions. I was
thanks
really,
for the
really
insight.
excited for this episode because you always ask such great questions.
I love thinking of questions. I like
You have
it. It's
good
fun.
ones. To be honest, man, you would be a good
No,
English
get outta
conversation teacher. With the questions you ask, you don't like Michael had said a couple times in our interview on the last episode, like, oh, that's a leading question. Like you ask some solid questions. So shout out to you, my man.
I don't think I'm personable though, like in front of a crowd like that.
I think it would just take you. I think it would take you a couple weeks, and you'd get into the flow of it.
Yeah,
I
probably,
think.
probably.
Speaking of flow, This is
are we going
usually
with
flows
this?
used with rap music, but this song has a great kind of flow or vibe to it. It is by kind of a, how would you describe Jamie Cullum, Jared? I would say kind of like pop jazz.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah. Yeah, it's pop jazz. That's a good way to describe it. I liked it. The one thing about him, so yeah, the song is by Jamie Cullum called "These Are the Days." You chose this one, not that I didn't say that for any specific reason. I almost said, "Like, don't put this on me." That's not why I brought this up. But the one thing I will say, I think I said it more just because then after I say stuff about it, like. But anyway, not that I had a problem with his accent. But his accent specifically is very distinctive.
Really?
I think so. At least to me it was.
What's distinctive about it?
Well, I have to listen to it again, but like it just to me it just stands out like very clearly, and it's just like very noticeably not that this is a problem, but it's just very noticeably unique more than anything. I was not going to say not American because that's a weird way to word it.
Right.
But yeah. But it's a very could you almost say he sounds like a British, maybe I'm not gonna say Jack Johnson, but
not Jack Johnson, but I know what you mean.
There's someone that he reminds me of, and I couldn't place it. I listened to the song a couple times, and
Jason
I could hear
Mraz?
it. Maybe.
I could see that a little bit. I mean, they're both kind of jazzy, a little soulful as well.
Okay.
But yeah, and I'll tell you why I picked this song. I picked this song for two reasons. One, we had been doing a lot of American music lately. So, and our last guest was also American. So I figured, let's go across the pond and find something else. And so I've known about Jamie Cullum for a while, and this one wasn't his big hit. He did a cover of Everlasting Love. And it's fantastic.
Everlasting Love. I know it, but I can't.
Everlasting Love. Na, 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 na.
Oh, yeah.
That one, right?
Everlasting. Yep. Okay,
that one.
Okay.
Yeah. He also does a great cover of Wind Cries Mary by Jimi Hendrix, actually.
Oh, cool. On piano?
Yeah. And he's a fantastic pianist. But the reason why I picked this song, These Are the Days, is there are days that I kind of reminisce about with my teaching. Like some days are great, and you look back at them with kind of this fond memory. Some days are not so great, and you don't look back at them with such a positive.
Are you like a nostalgic person? Do you find yourself like a?
I can be.
Yeah.
I try. I think I tend to think more about the future.
Yeah.
But occasionally I'll get nostalgic. Occasionally. But yeah, in this song, I just really love the piano and the drums give it like this nice kind of, I guess, groove. It's not like a dance groove, but it's like gives it a good feel to it. And I just really like the lyrics. I think they're really good. The
lyrics are my favorite part of it.
Okay. And why is that?
I think it paints a good picture. And I think it's very relatable for just about anyone that's older than like 15, you know?
Maybe even 15. You never know.
It's very relatable but it's also not relatable, but not like spoon-fed.
Right. It's not a bunch of just cliches over and over again.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. Like I love, these are the days that I've been missing. Give me the taste. Give me the joy of summer wine. These are the days that bring new meaning. Sorry. I feel the stillness of the sun, and I feel fine.
What we need is a new symbol for you to stop using the internet while we're podcasting, because I can tell whenever you're using it. And the only reason it really bothers me, it wouldn't bother me if this wasn't in video, because when it's in video, it reflects poorly on me.
Okay.
But when it's in audio, I could fix it. But when it's in video, then it messes up the video I know you like to listen to it, but I need a symbol for you to be like, can you not? Because I can tell when you are, and it's messing up the video.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, I liked it very much, and I'm always surprised by these. Like a lot of the songs that I find for this, like I have songs that are that I used to listen to that are not American, but none that I find that interesting to bring up. But I'm always interested by like the large array of music that you've been aware of for such a long time. I mean, I don't know how long you've known this guy, but you've had a very international musical
8 years, 9 years,
a good amount of time.
Yeah.
You've had a very international musical repertoire for a while.
That's the big plus of studying music and being around a bunch of other music nerds.
Yeah, I guess so.
Also,
That's true.
I was on Spotify, and because of you, Jared, and because of the Untranslatable podcast, I've become a really big fan of Tom Misch.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he has a playlist on Spotify, and guess what band is there?
Oh man, I feel like I should know this.
One
Is
that
this
you suggested early on.
a band that I suggested early, or I can't even think of who it is. Ife?
No,
Early on.
I think it was that song that didn't really have a time signature.
Oh, ATOS.
No, okay, no, then it's not that one.
What is it? Who's
Hiatus
the?
Coyote.
Oh yeah. That was Jekyll.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was Jekyll or a different song, but he had some Hiatus Coyote on that playlist. So I thought that was really cool. Came kind of full circle. But anyways, for all of our
He
listeners
listens to
out
the
there,
pod.
he does. He's a huge fan.
5-star
So shout out to
reviews,
Tom
Tom.
Misch. But anyways, check out our song on the pod, Jamie Cullum, Days Like These Days. What's the title again?
These are the days.
These are the days. Thank you. Check it out on Twitter, Untranslatable1. And we hope you enjoy it. We hope it'll make you reminisce on some of your days that you've enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm not a very nostalgic person either. Sometimes I don't like to reminisce that often. But this song definitely brought it out of me. We're getting close, Chad. We're getting real close.
Yes, we are.
I'm not
It's time
nervous
for your Czech test.
but I definitely need to make sure I definitely need to stay on the ball in these few coming days.
All right, so Jared, let's say we're out socializing, and you see some people speaking Czech, and you don't want to be that guy to ruin the flow and go "Mluvite anglicky." Mluvite anglicky. So you go up to them in Czech. First of all, how would you greet them?
Ahoy.
Okay, good.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Or you could say ciao.
Ciao. Okay. Dobry den is good morning, right?
Dobrý den is good day, and that's
little
more formal.
Yeah.
Oh, let me go through the morning, the day, and the evening, just so you know, because you'll probably hear them. So dobrý den is good day. Dobré ráno is good morning. Ráno is morning.
Ráno.
Dobré ráno.
Damn it! I might just respond with Dobry den.
And then you have for the evening either dobrý večer, which is good
Dobry
evening,
večer.
or dobro noc.
Dobro noc.
And
Why
that's
is
good
dobro
night.
said like that?
Because it has an OU ending. Noc is, I couldn't tell you the gender, but
I see.
that's the
I got
gender.
you.
That's why it's dobrý den, dobrý večer, and dobré ráno. In Czech, they have masculine, neuter, and feminine, just like they do in German.
Right.
So that's why. And what's interesting is the word for dinner is večeři, which is has the word večer in it, evening.
Yeah. So it's like evening meal is kind of what dinner is in Czech.
Exactly. Okay. So we're out socializing. You see these people. You say ahoy. What could you say next? I like that you're getting your groove on a little.
I'm imagining.
Ooh, all right.
They say. Well, sorry, I just distracted myself with that. So they say ahoy to me, and back I say ahoy, and then I say how are you or something.
Which is what? Do you remember? I hate using this reference, but what does Borat say?
Jak się masz?
Jak se máš?
Jak se máš? Jak se. I can't remember the second part.
Jak se máš?
Oh, that's what it is?
That's it.
Oh.
Jak se máš?
Oh, okay. Jak se máš? That's how are you? Jak se
Yep.
máš? How are you? Okay,
you
so
can
it is helpful that it is. I'm sure, as you mentioned, it's annoying to refer to Borat when you're talking about actual language,
Right.
teaching something. But that's good for me to remember. I
it's
won't
helpful.
forget it.
Exactly. Just don't go, jak se máš? Just don't do that. Jak se máš? Dobrý den. Good. And then the way you would respond to that is, I would usually just say dobrý, like good.
Okay, dobrý.
You can say fine.
How do you say and you?
A ti.
A ti.
A ti.
Okay, a ti.
Uh-huh. What about the conversation's going well and you're like, I feel bad that I don't know your name. Maybe I should ask you for your name.
I have no idea.
Jak?
Oh, so be jak se nam?
Jak se this is a tricky word. Jak se jmenuješ?
Oh, I've heard this. I definitely remember hearing
tricky
this before
one.
now.
So the sh is the it's like the do st in German. That's the conjugation. Mm-hmm. So jak se máš, jak se jmenuješ.
What's mash?
It's literally like how I think it's literally like how are you having it? Like meet mom is have.
Okay. I gotcha.
But it's like how's it going?
All the Czech people listen to this are like, like, wow, this is the worst Czech lesson I've ever heard.
Right. But yeah, so jak se máš, how are you? Jak se jmenuješ?
Okay. Jak se jmenuješ?
And then it would be jmenuje se Jared for you.
Jart. Okay.
Jmenuje se Jart.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Jmenuje se Jart.
Good.
Jared, I'm gonna mess up my own name.
another important question is what is it or what is that? To. Yeah.
Sotoje.
Sotoje. What is it? What is that?
Sotoje. What is that? Sotoje.
That's an important one. And so just like in German, the polite thing to say when you hear someone and you need them to repeat it is you say prosim, right? Mm-hmm. Like please, like come again, prosim. But when you hear Czechs talking to their friends, they don't say prosim. That would be like if we were talking, I was like, beg your pardon, like,
come again.
So you'll hear a lot of Czechs be like, so, which is like what? So,
right.
So yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and another thing you can say
before you give me that one, what was the other one you said to me? Like, what is it?
Sotoje.
Sotoje. Okay, and that's why what is so. Sotoje. Okay. So is what? Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
I'm trying to make some connections in my head.
Right. Well, here I'll give you another one with so.
Okay.
You could also say so delash.
So
what are you doing? So delash.
Okay, that's like was machst du?
Yeah. Hey, Junge, was machst du? So delash.
So delash.
Okay. I think that's good. I don't want to overburden you with Czech stuff. And actually, per usual, as you've mentioned this isn't really procrastinating, but just had a lot more going on today than I thought. I'm going to be getting you and Don that recommendation sheet for Prague.
Oh, right.
But I'm going to toss some useful Czech in there for you guys as well.
By the way, speaking of which, you love how my buddy that I mentioned, that recommended the movie to me, has done more research for this trip than us. Well, until you went to Prague yesterday and partied all night.
Right.
Has done the most research for this trip.
Right.
Thank you, Ben.
That's right. Big shout out. All right. So I got some teacher jokes. I hope you're ready.
Yeah.
So, Jared, what kind of food do math teachers eat?
I don't know. What is it?
Square meals.
Jeez.
We're going to continue with the math theme. Where does a math teacher eat their meals?
In their algebra. That doesn't even make any sense.
At a multiplication table.
Okay.
Why did the science teacher jump into a lake?
Why? Why is that?
To test the waters.
I don't understand the science part of that.
It could be any teacher. They give a lot of tests.
I gotcha.
What do you call a music teacher with a lot of problems?
What's that? Sharp? Flat?
A very trebled person.
Oh, dude, my piano teacher. So I went to piano lessons the other day, and the lesson was, no joke, 2+ hours.
Oh, wow.
This was the longest piano lesson I've ever had. The actual piano part of it, probably like an hour 20, hour 30, hour 25.
Okay, that's a long lesson.
We missed last lesson because there was a snowstorm that day, and she told me her entire life. She's she's selling a bunch of her stuff and donating to the poor. That's just how she explained it, the poor. But then she later explained who. She's getting eye surgery in May, so she's not. So she had to cancel our recital. She is looking to buy a new piano. She's claimed that she's had 2 visions from God recently. She went over to her friend's house and essentially cured her depression the other day. During this conversation, she started crying in front of me.
Oh, geez. Wow.
And I was just like, I don't even know what to... I didn't say this, but in my head, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And all I was doing was peeking at my watch. It's like, oh, wow. 8:15, huh? Still here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's start at 6. Huh. It was crazy, man. Anyway, sorry.
Speaking of music teachers,
yeah.
Why did the music teacher need a ladder?
Why is that?
To reach the high notes.
Really reaching with these jokes.
That's right. Why was the cross-eyed teacher fired?
Why is that? Scaring the children.
Because he couldn't control his pupils.
Oh, that's even better than my terrible joke.
All right, and my last one. Why do teachers fart in class?
Fart in class?
Uh-huh.
Why is that?
Because they're not private tutors.
All right, that was good.
I just like the fact that has the word toot in it. It's a great.
You ended strong.
That's right. That was the plan. Well, Jared, as per either the last episode or the one before that, going completely improv here and coming up with a quote for our pod. And I think after our discussion about the main topic and everything, I think the biggest takeaway is one thing I wish I would have known when I was beginning teaching, and a tip for all new teachers is simply be authentic, be present, and be ready to ask questions.
Yeah, and I think that's something that can be applied to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
I could use that at my job sometimes too.
Yeah, most definitely. So there you have it, everybody. We thank you all for your support, especially our listeners all over the world. We love the fact that we can reach all of you. I think we're on 4-5 continents now?
I think so. We're getting some new countries. I think Cambodia's in there these days.
Nice. Shout out.
Austria's been in there for a while.
Antarctica and we'll be good.
Yeah, we're getting around.
Exactly. And we really, really appreciate
Argentina,
it.
Shout out.
That's right. Argentina.
Growing
Brazil
our
as
reach
well.
Growing our reach in South America.
That's right. So we thank you all so much for your support. It's really fantastic. Check out our various social media channels. Jared does a great job of managing our Instagram and our Twitter. If you enjoy language memes, you can check out our Facebook page, Untranslatable Podcast. Check out our Instagram for all those poppin' pictures, mostly by Jared. Untranslatable Podcast. Check out our Twitter for all sorts of shenanigans, witty comebacks, what have you. Untranslatable 1. Also, not to forget our Songs of the Pod. And please, please, please send me some Czech untranslatables. My goal is to make it all the way to July with Czech untranslatables. We'll see if it'll happen. I hope it will. So send us an email at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. And in the near future, as some of you probably know, Jared and I will be on the same continent, so we'll have a lot of exciting content coming your way, documenting our shenanigans in Berlin, Prague, and also in Chomutov. So we're looking forward to bringing you all of that. So keep your eyes peeled, everybody. We really appreciate your support. And as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, Děkujeme.